Alright, hello physical science lab students. I'm making this brief video because we have the cancellation of classes tomorrow and Thursday due to Hurricane Sally. Mostly I'm concerned with tomorrow's class since that's when your lab should be meeting. So obviously the lab on campus is canceled. It's all in-person classes that are being canceled. What I want to do is walk you through who needs to be doing what and when. Because in order to accommodate for this, on top of the pods that we've forced ourselves into thanks to COVID restrictions, any canceled lab becomes very tricky to deal with because, well, we cancel this lab and then that's half of you miss a lab. What do the other half do? So I'm making a video to walk you through it because I think that will help you to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, here is your home page for the course. Let's go to the modules page, and here are all the modules. You have all of your labs. Your quizzes show up here in a module for quizzes. They all have titles which match the schedule, which match the due dates. And I have updated here the schedule, which is posted in these modules. So Physical Science Lab Pod Schedule Fall 2020. If we click on that, it opens up the schedule and we can look at what you're supposed to be doing. So here is September 16th. Originally, this would have been Pod 1 meeting to do the speed of sound lab, and Pod 2 would have been off. But since we're canceling this due to the hurricane, what I'm doing is shifting a few things around. So Pod 2, and this is really temporary Pod 2, in other words, everybody who has not yet done the drop ball lab should be doing the drop ball lab this week. And that's a take-home lab, and the hurricane's supposed to blow through, I guess, tonight, tomorrow, something like this, and we're supposed to be back on campus by Friday. So let's make this lab due for temporary Pod 2. In other words, anybody who's not done this lab yet, this lab is due Friday night. I won't probably get to grading it until sometime after that. And then the other change that I've made is that November 18th, originally we would have had temporary Pod 2 doing the drop ball lab in class. And instead, I'm going to have Pod 1, permanent Pod 1, actual Pod 1, do speed of sound since your class has been canceled. Now, those of you who are doing the drop ball lab as a take-home, you all should have taken home a little plastic baggie like this from the lab. I tried to hand them out in multiple days of each pod's meeting. So everybody should have these now. And inside of the bag there is a little rubber ball which you can drop. It's a bouncy ball, so drop, 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 drop. We can drop it. And basically what you're doing for the lab is you're taking some sort of a meter stick. This right here is not really a meter stick, but it will suffice for our purposes. And you are measuring from the bottom of the ball a drop height, and then you measure a bounce height. So it bounces to here, You may not pick it up on the camera, but it's 10 centimeters of bounce height. That was for about 15 centimeters of drop height. And the ball now has bounced somewhere that I will have to go find after the video. Okay. The handout that goes with this, so you have your whole schedule here. This tells you what everything is. And then, of course, any in-class lab always is due at 5 o'clock on the day it's assigned. That we've covered before. Besides these, you may want a schedule of when the quizzes are due. And so I've attempted to put something like that together for you as well. For some reason it didn't load onto this schedule, but I will load for you a tentative quiz schedule. I can only give you a tentative quiz schedule because since we are canceling classes due to hurricanes and so on, we don't know what classes when on our schedule. And so right now you do have a quiz, and it is due on September 19th, and that is not affected by this hurricane because you've had almost a week up to now to do it in. I put it up sometime last week, and it's due, I guess that would be a Saturday. It covers the kinematics lab, it covers the take-home lab for graphs, and it covers the Archimedes principle lab, all of which everybody should have done by now. So yeah, to recapitulate the quiz due dates, your first quiz due September 19th, second one October 17th, and at the moment the plan is for that to cover your reaction times data acquisition lab and the drop ball lab, which everybody will have done now, and then specific heat of metals lab is the other one that will be covered on that quiz. Okay, and then the final quiz will cover all remaining labs. All right, and that will be due on the 28th. There's no labs after the 18th, but you can still take a quiz after the labs are done. And so that's where we are at this point. That's what the plan is in response to the hurricane. For those of you who are now doing the drop ball take-home lab, I suppose we should look at where that is in your modules, because it's not listed as a take-home lab. All right, so here's our take-home labs, the three that are planned. Data analysis, that's your graphing lab. There's the data acquisition, that's your reaction times lab. There's a pressure lab, those are your actual intended take-homes. And then the drop ball lab, as it turns out, is all the way down here. This is the PDF for it. Here is the lab report for it. So you should be submitting to that. And then below this are some additional labs that we could maybe do as take-homes in the event that we have other cancellations. Okay, but other than that, these labs in these modules are basically organized in order as per the schedule. They're named as per what's on the schedule. You should be able to look on the schedule and know what you're doing when. So those of you who have not done the take-home, the dropping ball lab, this one right here, which is also a data acquisition lab for what it's worth. You are responsible for doing this, but at home, and you have everything in here that you need. If you have your little baggie that has the ball in it, you may need to procure a meter stick or a tape measure or the like in order to do this lab, but otherwise you should have everything you need just sitting around at home. So stay safe, everybody. I hope that the hurricane doesn't hit you too hard. I guess I will be seeing most of you in a week or 2 weeks, depending upon what pod you're in.